Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is part 2 of coloring a cartoon character in Procreate, and today we're gonna focus on applying shadows and lights to our character. If you haven't watched part 1, you can find it in the description box. So let's get started, guys. I have my base colors, and now I'm gonna create a new group. So there will be 2 layers, and I'm gonna call this group shadows. And I set both layers to a multiply mode. So I will apply the shadows to the whole character, not to each individual element. So usually I set the opacity a bit lower, but I adjust it in the end. And I'm gonna choose some purplish color. So usually it works well. You can also test it. And I'm gonna use 6B pencil for this. So you can see that wherever you apply this color, it will just create a different one because it will multiply with the original color and make it more saturated and dark. For now, I'm just gonna go for this one. Later I can change it. So I go over my lines, line art that I made before, and also on this first layer of shadows I apply harsh shadows, the ones that result from objects touching each other. Here I don't have so many because it's just a face. Actually, I basically copy my line art in some ways. You always have to play around with the opacity, and I didn't like the color that I chose before, so I changed it. Sometimes I do it with hue, saturation and brightness, but sometimes I choose it in the palette and then apply it to the layer. So I also add these types of shadows under the eyelashes. For now it's really dark, but I'm gonna reduce the opacity later. I also add a little bit of shadow under the eyebrows and between the shirt and skin, because the shirt is touching the skin. And some shadows under the hair, where the hair is touching the face. Don't worry about going over the hair layer, because actually I will apply a different layer of shadows to the hair. That's why in part 1 I actually made hair on a separate layer, because I want to have more control over the shadows and lights I apply to the hair. So yeah, just apply the shadows under where the hair is touching the face. Also a little bit on the neck. And now I select the hair layer and clear the layer with the shadows, because I don't want any of these shadows to be on my hair. As I've said, I want to make a separate one for the hair, so I clear it. And let's go to the other layer that we created for the shadows, also in a multiply mode. And with the same color, but with a softer brush, we're gonna apply some softer shadows. I use round render brush from a free pack that I will link in the description. I apply this kind of shadows under the eyebrows, between the eyelashes and eyebrows. Reduce the opacity, you can do it at any point. And I clean up the shadows a little bit. I don't want them to be really sharp, but I don't want them messy either. The next place where I apply this kind of shadow is under the nose, so the lower part of the nose and under the nose.
So let it go, just let it be.
Also inside the ear.
Don't you be you and I'll be me.
And more under the neck.
Open my eyes. Don't need an answer, just some kind of reply.
And again, I clear the shadow layer from the hair.
Don't need an answer, just some kind of reply.
Play around with the opacity and see what works best. One more way that you can avoid drawing on some specific layer, like in this case, I don't want to draw shadows on my hair, I can select the hair layer and invert it. So this way, if I go to my shadow layer and paint on it, it will not go to my hair. So I can just apply shadows to the skin wherever I want, but not to the hair. I add a little bit of shadow under the fringe. And some shadow on the jaw. I don't want it to be really harsh, so I think I'm gonna erase it a little bit. I go back to the previous shadow layer and erase that harsh shadow a little bit as well, because I think it was too harsh. So you can see the effect of the shadows on the face. Now let's go to the hair. I create a new clipping mask for the hair layer. Pick the color of the hair layer, make it darker, and choose a chalk brush. It's a standard Procreate brush under the calligraphy section. So I think the color was too dark. I'm trying to find the color that suits for the darkest shadows. So, and I'm gonna apply a few dark hair strands. Usually they are under the neck, and I'm gonna apply some of them in random places, also on the fringe. So just create the texture of the hair with the dark hair strands. Now let's move on to the lights. I create a new group, call it light. Usually I use add mode for the light, sometimes overlay as well. Usually it can be a combination of both. So I choose this round render brush with the add layer and the low opacity. So you can see that it will create kind of yellowish tone. I usually get an orange or yellow color for the lights. and I apply it to the places which would be hit by the light. So the nose, the tip of the nose, a little bit on the lower part of the nose, like a bounce light, on the lip as well, inside the iris. I like to add this kind of line. And a little bit on the jaw. Some on the ear.
All alone again tonight, but you don't seem to forget about yourself.
Just make it a bit less sharp on the jaw by using the eraser. So I usually like to play around with the layer modes. For example, in this case I've done that. I created an overlay layer, duplicated it, and set the other one in the add. So you just have to play around with the opacity to see what works best. And then let's continue to the hair. I'm gonna choose a light orangey tone and edge 2.0 brush. So with the add mode, I add some light. I increase the opacity of my sketch to see the lines that I put down before, so I can follow them a little bit. Then on another layer in an add mode, with the ink bleed, I define some hair strands with this light color.
And so my friend, let me tell you once again, and you know that it's true. Forget about seeing it or hearing it, in the end you must feel. Forget about all you know, you need to go, it's okay to let go.
Then I create a new layer and I use Max Hue Gouache Clean brush that I made smaller. I decreased the size of this brush, but it's a brush from Max Pack Gouache set that you can buy. I will link it in the description. So with this brush I usually clean up the hair. I kind of color pick the darkest colors first, define the strands more. Then I do the same with the lightest colors, mid-tones. So there is no specific process of doing that. You just have to color pick the colors that you already have on your canvas and try to create more defined shapes, more defined hair strands. Sometimes I create more than one layer in case I mess up and I want to go back. So I also use chalk brush for adding some texture. So in this case I did it on a new layer as well. So I just try to clean up some strands and create more dimension by using dark and light colors. So these are the main brushes that I use for cleaning up the hair. This Max Hue Gouache Clean and chalk.
I'll let you go, just need some time. At your own pace, you need to find your way. I know now you'll never change your mind for something that matters.
Then to create more volume, I create a layer in the multiply mode and I add some dark places like under the neck. I make the colors darker and also on top of the hair.
I packed our bags, we'll be on.
And I also create an add layer and use a lighter color and a soft brush to add some light color to the hair tips.
'cause I know what matters.
And another thing that I do with another add layer and H 2.0, I create this kind of highlights. So usually like 2 or 3 of them, horizontal highlights. And also I erase some of it. So I erase them in the darkest places. It creates more dimension. Adjust the opacity a little bit as well. And then I clean things up again. So I just look at the hair and try to see which areas could be improved. So color pick the colors that you have, make some places darker and some places lighter. Again, creating new layers, testing what's working, what's not.
No matter what I got off the ground, for something that matters.
Hair always takes me so long, and I don't have a specific formula how to draw it, so yeah, it's always a challenge, and every time it's different for me. And in the end, I create a new layer and add some cute hairs here and there, just to, I don't know, to make it more fun. So like usually with a lighter color, I add these kinds of hair.
Just hope we could stay together.
And I also add some shadow underneath this hair.
But the chances are small, just like the lottery.
Then I create layer mask for my sketch layer and erase some things on it, like the iris and some places where the line art doesn't look good. Then I create a new layer with an add mode and with almost white color in Max Gouache Clean, but this one is the one that I haven't changed, the original one. I select the layer of the eyes and add some kind of highlights to the lower part of the eyes.
So close your eyes. Do you feel the same? Only thing that matters.
And then I add some reflections with the ink bleed brush in an add mode.
Into my mind's deep. The color that fall and tears that have been long asleep. The lights are out and heaven's open. We can be.
I add some highlight on the tip of the nose as well, but with a very low opacity.
Stop the clocks, the bees are humming in between the contrasts of our soul.
I actually deleted that first layer that I added to the eye, so now I only have this reflection. I swipe 3 fingers down and copy all and then paste it. So this way I have the whole drawing on one layer without actually merging the layers, and I play with the color balance. So I like to make my shadows a little bit more blue, and I adjust the curves as well. So, and the last thing is noise. I add like around 3% of the noise, so to make kind of grainy texture. And that's all, actually. We're done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It helps me a lot. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.
So